In this video, I'm going to show you 10 of the most powerful kettlebell exercises that you can do. It's going to be a masterclass. We're taking our time. And I'm also going to show you how you can implement these exercises into a proper workout. But before we get started, I got a gift for you. Check the first link in the description. It's a free workout course. 30 days filled with kettlebell training. Grüezi miteinander, Gregory von Lebe Stark here. I hope you're ready to dive deep into these kettlebell exercises. Make sure you have your kettlebell with you, that you're hydrated, and that you have enough space around you. This is a long video, so if you need a shortcut and you want to check out specific exercises, check the timestamp in the description. When it comes to kettlebell training, there's one particular exercise that is so important. It is part of the deadlift, part of the swing, part of the clean, part of the snatch, that you have to know it. And this exercise is the hinge. So matter of fact, if you're just starting out, we want to learn the hinge. So watch what this looks like. I have a shoulder width stance, and you follow me right now. Do as I say. Shoulder width stance, I stand in a slight diagonal stance so you can see me part from the side, part from the front. What happens with your hips? We see this with beginners on a daily basis when they walk into the gym. They don't know how to move their hips. So maybe there is a chance that you don't know how to activate your strongest muscles as well. Watch what the hinge looks like. Observe first. Putting the hips back. Knees unlocking. I'm really extending my arms to the side. And then when I come up, I use my hips only. Your spine is straight, but you are still moving in that horizontal plane. So I am able to keep the spine straight, not vertical. I keep it straight as I'm moving my upper body down. So you pull your chin down towards your throat, and I'm pushing the hips back, and I should feel some tension in my hamstrings. If you do this properly, you should feel everything right here in your rear legs. And as you come up, you power through the hips. And when we are on top, I have my knees locked, my hips extended, and I have an upright posture. Powerful thing about a kettlebell is that you can use it for unilateral training. This means I can use it with one side only, or I can switch sides. That's why I call this exercise the hand-to-hand deadlift. Now we have just learned the hinge, right? So imagine with me, bring your kettlebell in and place it between your legs. Now I stand shoulder width apart over the kettlebell. As I'm looking down, the kettlebell and the handle should be approximately in the middle of my foot. If it is like this, that's the proper position. I don't want to start right here. I don't want to start right here. I want to start properly over the kettlebell as it sits approximately alongside the middle of my foot. Now remember the hinge, pushing the hips back, extending the arms to the side, right? Now we take it a step further. Tuck your chin in. Now, right here, the hands are not useful. So let's bring them to the front. Now, problem, I can't reach the kettlebell. What do I have to do? I have to sit back and use my knees a little bit. Watch this. And watch my shins. My shins stay vertical. They don't move forward. They stay vertical. So now, I grab the bell with one hand, pulling the shoulders back. My other arm is in the air. Now I hinge, I complete the hinge or complete the deadlift as I stand up, powering through the hips, boom, fully extending the hips. Now, as I place the kettlebell back down, the same thing happens. Everything happens in the hips, and now I'm switching hands. That's the reason why it is called a hand-to-hand deadlift. Now let's jump into the next exercise, a hand-to-hand row. Now we assume the same position like we did in the deadlift. Here comes the hinge again, pushing the hips back, grabbing the kettlebell, but now here comes the difference. I'm now not using my hips, I'm using my back muscle, or I always say I pull with my elbows up. Watch what that looks like. I pull the weight up, and then I rotate my hand, pulling the elbow up, and my whole body pivots and shifts to the side, left and right. Watch as I'm pulling the kettlebell up and my body tilts or shifts or pivots to the left side. Switching sides. Now my whole body weight is shifted to my right leg, pulling the weight up. I don't want to roll the weight up like this. I want to roll the weight up like this. No intentional curling of my biceps, and nothing happens in my wrist. A little side note, you're gonna feel your lower back most definitely. It's gonna burn out immediately. You'd be like, oh, this exercise is for the lower back. No, it is not. Your lower back is involved in holding that posture. And since the lower back is the weakest link in the chain, you're gonna feel it most definitely, guaranteed. Let's jump up to exercise number 3, the reverse lunge. I believe with the kettlebell, the reverse lunge is so effective and works so beautifully. And from our experience with beginners, it's just easier to handle. So let's focus on the lunge first before we use any weight. It's an exercise where we engage into an additional realm of stability. That's why a lot of people have trouble with it. The reverse lunge works like this. I assume a shoulder width stance, and I hope you're still following me. Make sure nothing's in close proximity and you follow me. Don't just watch and don't just write something in the comments. You have to do it as well. Your coach is telling you this. So now watch this. I'm taking a step back. Boom. And I imagine I am standing on tracks, right? Where the train passes through. So I am a train, right? So if I want to move properly as a train, I cannot do stuff like this. I lose balance. I'm not on tracks. I'm derailing myself. So from this position right here, watch where my rear leg is. It is on the toes. Do not shift your body weight on the heels. This completely changes the exercise. You stay on your toes. You have an upright posture. You make sure you have enough distance between those two legs. Now you bend your left and right knee and you want to go down as far as you can. I always like to say, I'm touching the floor. Now, as I'm touching the floor, you should assume approximately a 90-degree angle in both of your knees as well as in your hips. Now we have that upright posture, right? So now I stand back up. I'm in a strong position now to step back into my original stance. So now that you understand the reverse lunge, weightless, let's use it with the kettlebell. I'm hinging, pulling the bell between my legs, and then I'm flipping it up. And now I can play the flute song. Auto core competition kettlebells. For those of you who are interested, these are our own LS competition kettlebells. We call them Superflow kettlebells. We open up shop around December. So if you're interested, put your name on the waiting list. You'll find a link in the description. Now, my palms connect with the belly. I can play the flute song. Now, chest up, shoulders back. I keep the elbow close to my body. Now, I take one step back. I imagine I'm standing on tracks. Knees touch the floor. Coming back up. Assuming the shoulder width stance again. The other side. Back down, back up. Now what helps is if you take your time. And one thing that is highly important with an exercise like this is to keep your mid-center under fire. Keep it contracted. Keep the energy up. Contract those abdominals. Brace it as if you're getting a punch. Now with the goblet squat, it is a similar way to pick it up. Pull it back, grab it. There's a couple of ways to grab it, and I like to grab it again by the belly. A goblet squat, from a biomechanical perspective, is a front squat. And if we assume a front squat position, we have to move accordingly. So watch what I do. You can observe first. Pull it back up like I did it in the reverse lunge, grabbing the kettlebell, playing the flute song. Now, chest up, shoulders back. Watch what happens. I have a little bit wider than shoulder width stance. I push my knees out, and as you can see, my toes are already pointing outwards. Now my knees track my toes. My chest stays up. I hinge a little bit, and I assume that bottom squat position. Now from this position, I'll come back up. Playing the flute song. Maybe you try this exercise and you wrestle with it, you battle with it, you feel like the exercise is fighting you, it may be that your genetic structure, your hip structure, does not allow this. You can stretch and do whatever you want. If you have a so-called Celtic hip, where where the bone of your upper leg sits deep in the pelvis, you won't be able to engage in this type of position. To bring the kettlebell up into a press, I have to clean it. And we cover the clean a little bit later, so let's just assume that you understand the clean. Pulling the kettlebell into the backswing, hand insertion, racking the weight. Now, as you can see, I have this type of position. Elbow close to my body, and now I can close my fist, close my fingers to a fist. I don't have to grab the handle, and I make sure that the elbow makes contact with the iliac crest of my hip. That's that bony structure that you feel down here. So this is an important connection that I have to engage with. Because from this position, I can go into the strict push, press, or a jerk. Pressing the kettlebell or pressing a kettlebell overhead requires you to understand what the kettlebell is made of. Handle, belly of the bell, and watch the weight pulls laterally away from me because of the displacement of the weight. You follow me? Now, if I press it up like this is suboptimal. This does not work. This is stupid, and this may even hurt your shoulder. Now, yes, you can do stuff like this, but we want to focus on the most efficient way to press, and that is a straight line. So watch what I do. Whoa. My elbow sits right below my wrist. They are in line. My wrist joint as well as my elbow joint are in one line. And from that position, I fully extend my arm overhead. And as I am in that overhead position, I make sure that the biceps almost makes contact with my ear. If the arm's out, don't lean into your arm, bring your arm close to your head. Now watch in the overhead top fixation where my thumb is pointing. It is pointing towards my skull slightly, but I don't overdo it. The palm is not facing towards you, the palm is facing diagonally away from me or towards my skull. Now from this position, the kettlebell now rests on my elbow and on my shoulder joint. This is a strong position. We call this, I'm stacked on all joints. Now, as I bring the weight back down, what do? I push the elbows forward and I rack the weight. I don't flare out with my elbow. A windmill is nothing less than a hinge combined with a rotation of your upper spine. I start like this. Both feet point to the right or to the left respectively. If my feet point to the right, I have to do the first part of the exercise, and that is side hinging. Now, many people can't do this. They just start leaning over. It is not leaning over. If you start leaning over, you are moving from your spine. That's not what we want to do. And maybe even be a little bit critical. What we want to do is shift and pivot the whole body weight on our strongest column and the strongest muscles, which is what? The hip. Do you see the difference? I'm demonstrating it. Wrong? Right. My natural inclination is to look towards the floor because my upper body is not used to rotating against the hip. Because my hip is now facing a position where if I have it naturally, I just look down the floor. But I mentioned that it is a rotation of the T-spine. So that's what I do. And from this position, if I come back up, my upper body comes up. And as I move up, I'm assuming the correct position that is predetermined from my hips. Let's see. I bring it overhead. I just did a snatch. You can also press it overhead. Doesn't matter. Now, shoulder width stance. Both feet point now to the right. I start side hinging. I start rotating my T-spine. And now I'm lowering my upper body down to the floor as far as I can. I can bend my knees a little bit. I can extend them. If you extend the knees, you'll feel a little bit more of a stretch in your rear legs. And as I come back up, I don't stop here. I am assuming the natural position that is predetermined from the position of my hip. The Turkish Get Up, the idea of a Turkish Get Up is with weight overhead, I want to lay down on the floor and want to get back up. So what I like to do with light weights or moderate weights, I start overhead. So I'm using my right side. I'm snatching the weight up. You can also press it overhead, doesn't matter. So weight is overhead. Now watch what I do. I'm facing you, shoulder width stance. Now this is my type of get up. I've modified it to a certain extent. You've probably never seen it like this. I do a curtsy lunge, or it is also referred to as a dragon lunge. I don't do the normal reverse lunge, but I assume this position. Watch. That's a dragon or curtsy lunge. Now from this position, I'm already in a proper setup to just shift my right leg a little bit and my left leg a little bit to create this perfect open, half kneeling open position so I can reach the floor. Now in that half kneeling open position, my left hand now searches the floor and, where do we remember this? Where does this come from? From the windmill, right? So this is a kneeling windmill. From this position, I shift my left leg that's behind me now to the front. I want to make sure you see this. Boom. Down on my hips, down on my elbow. Now using my right leg as support. This is where the whole weight now pivots to. And I'm bringing my upper back or my back to the floor and then flexing the arm down to my chest. Now as I bring the arm back up, I press it, making sure my shoulder is tight. Don't lift your shoulder off the floor. Now from this position I have to get up, but I can't get up like this. It's not something that I would recommend. So what I have to do is I have to shift my whole body weight to my left elbow. How do I do this? With my right leg that makes contact with the floor. From this position, I have to get back towards my center of mass. So I pull my leg in. Now I use strength from here and strength from my elbow to bring my upper body up. And now bringing my left leg that's behind, left arm that's behind me close to my body. Pushing the hips up, creating enough space so I can now move my knees in and rotate the hip. This is important. That's what a lot of beginners do wrong, is they think, okay, coach, I'm pulling the knees in. That doesn't work. So it's not just pulling the leg in, it's also rotating your whole pelvis. Boom. Now from this position, what I like to do is shift my whole body weight to the heel of my left leg, and then I'll work like a spring. Boom. Getting ready for this position. This is a reverse lunge position that you remember, but now the weight is overhead. Bam. Standing back up. The hand-to-hand swing. Woo-wee. There's a couple of things that we already know now, right? We know the hinge. We know the deadlift. So we know how to engage our strongest muscles, which are located in our hip area. So watch what it looks like weightless if I use a swing or a ballistic hinge, so to speak. And my arms, I imagine this is where the kettlebell is. That's what happens. Now, the swing offers a magnitude of mistakes that many people do, and that's outside the scope of this video. But you can see what happens in the hinge, right? Pushing the hips back, fully extending the hips, and then using it in a ballistic manner. What does it look like if I use it with a kettlebell? Watch this. Hand to hand. Now you probably see me going up and down with my toes and my heels a little bit. Do not focus on this. That's an advanced technique that we call the foot kick. But you just stand firmly planted on the floor and you are just doing a ballistic hinge. That is the single hand or hand-to-hand swing, the way we teach it, the hybrid style. So let's jump into exercise number 9. I told you when we talked about the press, right, that we have to understand the clean. Here it comes. This is the kettlebell in motion as it is swinging between your legs, right? So it is swinging like this. And in order for the kettlebell to swing like this, I have to grab it up here. Just a quick analogy or a quick description of the kettlebell. This is the belly. This is the window. This is the handle. This is the upper horn, the lower horn. This is the upper arc, the lower arc, also referred to as the corner. And this is the base. Okay? If I grab the kettlebell in a so-called finger grip, I make sure that my pinky connects with the lower arc. Like this. Don't go too deep on the horn. That's too deep. You want to grab it with the pinky and the lower arc. Now, I don't grab it with my full hand, I grab it with my fingers. If I grab it like this, I don't want to use my hands too much because that would interfere with the trajectory of the kettlebell. And then it flips like this, it's unnecessary. So I keep it loose hand. So as the kettlebell comes up from this position, I do this, boom. I jump or I spear the kettlebell. We also call this the hand insertion. And this right here, this thing is called web space, and this thing connects with the upper arc of the handle, and in some cases even maybe with the upper horn. So if I assume that position, I can curl my fingers to a fist, and if I rack the kettlebell, nothing happens in your forearm. Your forearm stays locked, and the elbow connects with your body. In movement, it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We call this backswing, acceleration pull or hip extension, acceleration pull because the kettlebell wants to move upwards, but I have to give it a little pull, and then the hand insertion happens. So the hand insertion happens approximately here, and then elbow close to my body. Don't flare out. Keep the elbow close to your body. And as I drop it, couple of things happen. I move away from the kettlebell. I am extending my lower arm and I'm rotating my palm, turning the palm towards me. I'm extending my forearm. I let the kettlebell drop. Important note now, I don't pull my hips back. I wait until my arm connects with my full body. Boom. And as it connects, this is where I hinge. Here it comes again. So let's check out the snatch. There's a chain, the swing, the clean, and the snatch. So the chain starts with its link down below with a swing. Now the chain in the middle, right, still rattling. So in the middle comes the clean, and on top comes the snatch. So it's all one progression. The swing is the base, the clean is the middle, and the snatch is the top. So if you make mistakes in the swing, you're going to transfer it to the clean, and you're going to transfer it to the snatch. So make sure the swing and the clean are down pat, because hand insertion and all that stuff happens as well, but it happens overhead. So let me show you what a snatch looks like. Pulling the kettlebell into the backswing, extending the hip, acceleration pull happens, but now the acceleration pull has to be a little bit harder. I'm pivoting my whole body weight backwards because if I do this, the kettlebell is a little bit closer to my center of mass, which sits around here. If I don't do this, all right, I'm doing the Michael Jackson, and I want to avoid this. So I want to lean back, pivot my body weight on my heels. My upper body is now my counterweight. The bell starts traveling, and as it comes up around this position right here, I'm inserting my hand into the kettlebell. So this is where the hand insertion happens, approximately up here. And as I grab it up here, I bring my arm back. Important note, if you use more momentum and if you have a lot of power coming from your hips, you have to make sure that, yes, you don't have your arm tight. you have to have your arms loose to a certain extent. It still has to be a little bit, some tension has to be in there. But once the kettlebell comes up, you have to, boom, spear it. Remember what I told you in the clean? I drop the weight like this, right? I'm rotating the palm towards me. The same thing overhead with the snatch. I'm rotating the palm towards me. Additionally, like in the clean, I pivot my weight to my heels. I lean back a little bit. The weight drops, and now from this position, I'll let gravity do its thing, and then I hinge, and then I come back up. Now, from a workout perspective, we have a range of options with these 10 exercises, but I want to make it easy for you. Especially beginners need something that is tangible and that is not too complex. But one thing that I need to note is that kettlebell training is generally categorized as full body training. When you pick up a kettlebell for a spin, you generally tend to move your whole body as a unit, as opposed to the typical gym culture training where you are doing a lot of machine work and you're kind of isolating the body to a certain extent. Since I want people to understand this, we can still categorize the kettlebell to a certain extent in upper and lower body, and that's what we're going to do right now. So here we have the 10 exercises. We have the hand-to-hand deadlift, the goblet squat, the reverse lunge, the press, the windmill, the hand-to-hand row, the get up, swing, clean, and snatch. Now, one thing that you see immediately is get up is in red because it is a full body exercise, but we can put it up into the upper body category for this video. Depending on the perspective, you can also classify it as lower body, but like I mentioned, it is rather full body. So now we have hand-to-hand deadlift, goblet squat, and reverse lunge as lower body exercises. Then we have the press, the windmill, the row, and the get up as upper body exercises. And then we have the ballistics, the swing, the clean, and the snatch as ballistic exercises with a lot of momentum. And we can just, for plain and simple reasons to make it easy for you to understand, categorize this as cardio training. So how would I set it up right now? Watch this. Boom. I now choose 3 exercises from these 3 blocks. So now I choose the goblet squat for this video that we're working with right now as a lower body exercise. I use the press as an upper body exercise, and I use the swing as my cardio. Now, you can switch it up however you want. You can use these blocks and use, for example, a hand-to-hand deadlift, a windmill, and a snatch, or a reverse lunge, a row, and a clean. And that is the simple way of mixing and matching these powerful exercises. And for the protocol, we're going to do 1 minute per exercise. So now, goblet squat, press, and swing. Are you ready? We're going to start in 3, 2, 1. Let's grab it. Okay, whoop, bam. Goblet squat. We take our time, the flute song. Down into a squat. Back up. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now what I like to do is breathe into the nose. Breathing out just a little bit in the bottom position. Coming back up. Now if you want to go advanced breathing, I call this hyperrhythmic breathing. Herb. We have a couple of more seconds to go. Now let's relax and breathe a little bit. Shake it off. Walk, walk. Keep the blood flowing. Let's do a press. 30 seconds with the left side. 30 seconds with the right side. Again, the breathing. We're just a little bit more safe. We have more safety with the spine. I can create more tension for my stomach or for my midsection. If I breathe in, I'll switch sides. Last one. Park the bell. Again, I walk, I breathe. Let's get ready for the hand-to-hand swing. In 3, 2, 1. Let's do it. Again, I breathe in as the kettlebell lands in the backswing, and I breathe out once the kettlebell lands approximately on chest level. And as you can see, I call this the ghost hand. My other hand mimics my leading hand. I always say use your whole body. Use your whole body to engage in that momentum. And that super flow, baby. That super flow feeling. Guys, you gotta buy one of our kettlebells to really feel that. I just love it. It's that ultimate feeling. That super flow state. Park the bell. Shh. Bada boom. So that's 3 minutes of work, right? And now we can say, Gregory, that's awesome. Now, how can I rest? Well, you can rest in between the exercises. We now just did a little bit of rest. Or you can fully rest after 3 exercises, take a break, and then do it like Gypsy does it. And then, after you are replenished and regenerated, you go back at it again, and you do 3 to 4 rounds. So here's the next step that you have to do. You have to like the video, consider subscribing, share it with a friend who's also passionate about kettlebells, and then check out our academy right here. This video is just the surface. Even though it was long, it is just the surface. So if you want to take a deep dive, take it to the next level, and you need my help as a coach, then check out the academy right